Week 6 is not over yet. One more game left to go, and we got a somewhat, I think in the offseason, we would have considered this a great AFC showdown on Monday night. Now, it's not really looking that way, and we'll break that down all right now on the Monday Night Football pregame show. My name is John Jansen. Follow me at JJansen34, joined by Tony Jigsaw Cotillo, and this is all sponsored by the Sharp app. Go to sharp.link and all of the ways that you can find the Sharp app, whether that's in Google Play Store, Apple App Store, and also be sure to always check out our 1 week free trial. If you haven't yet, do it for tonight. So you can use the optimizer, you can use the projection model, all of the tools that win daily to help you build a winning lineup. And you can do that by using the promo code LiveWeek, and that link also in the description below will give you the checkout, the sign up page for the 1 week free trial. But just use the promo code LiveWeek. That'll help you get a 1 week free trial. All right, Tony, let's get going here for tonight. This is going to be, do we expect the Titans to show any kind of signs of life offensively in this game? Because that's kind of the big question here is it just going to be all Buffalo?
Man, I'll tell you what, these showdowns are getting tougher and tougher with some of these teams because, right? Just like you said, we would have talked about this in the offseason. It was like, wow, what a matchup. You got Tannehill versus Allen, and now it's like, who is Ryan Tannehill right now? Who is this offense? Julio Jones, major bust so far, not to say continue. A.J. Brown can't stay healthy. So I think it's kind of, John, it's like Derrick Henry versus Buffalo in the showdown. I don't know what other way to look at it.
Yeah, it really is. Like, Derrick Henry is going to be the big focal point. I guess what we have to decide is like Tennessee, they're at home. There's got to be some offense, right? And that's going to be the hard part to really decide. I think I'm with my guy T here. I think this is going to be a closer game than expected, but I don't know how to necessarily play that safely in terms of DFS. So that's why it becomes a little bit difficult for me. Like, if we're going to play any Titans, are we going to go with Julio Jones? I think A.J. Brown's still hurt. I don't think he's going to play this game. Brown has been added to the Titans injury report for Monday night's game. It is now listed as questionable due to illness. So we just have to figure out who are we going with out of these Titans receivers, and is it worth really getting too involved with them or just looking at value? That's going to be the tough part, mainly the Titans offense, because I think they're going to score some points. It's just how are we going to attack that? Titans offense has really just been Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it really has. It's just, can you stop Derrick? That's what it is right now. And I think, again, like what you said, like T said, this is going to be a close game. It is. I think, does that mean there's not going to be a lot of offense? No, not at all. There's going to be some offense, but it's going to be a closer game than everybody thinks. The thing you're going to have to do with your showdown is get creative. And we've talked about this before. Everybody's going to throw Derrick Henry in that top. Everybody's going to throw Josh Allen in that top. You got to get creative. Like, I seen a couple people, one of my showdowns last week put Dawson Knox as their captain, and it worked out, right? It's not going to work out every week, but it's something we got to look at, especially now. A.J. Brown probably is not going to play, like you said. If he's already questionable due to illness, it looks like he's not going to play.
Yeah, it's right? Weird, but I think we can go through most of this with the assumption that he might not play.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do. I think it's the best thing to do.
So now we just have to figure out, if he's not going to play, is it going to be worth Julio Jones is coming back? And it seems like he's going to be healthy and playing in this game. Is it going to be worth it? Look, he is. If we look at this without the captain spot, Julio Jones, 6,600 on DraftKings. Is Julio Jones in play at all? Brown is playing, so it seems like we are getting A.J. Brown in this one. So I guess let's go with that. A.J. Brown, Julio Jones playing. Obviously, before the season, we thought we were going to have to figure out which day is it going to be for them. But now we really have to figure it out today with Julio Jones and both A.J. Brown returning for the first time in a week or so.
I think I got to go with the minus 1,200. And what I mean by that is A.J. Brown, 7,800. I'll just top the 1,200 off, and I would go with Julio Jones. I basically hedge my bets that for that extra 1,200 drop, I could throw that into my captain spot somewhere else. It is prime time. And if there's any time for Julio Jones to break out of his so-called bust of a year so far, I think that tonight could be that night.
Yeah, tonight could be. It's really hard for me to say because I would like to with Tennessee. maybe that's where we can find some of the value spots just because, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones are still returning. So there's got to be some way to look at this. But I don't see it. Like
I like Marcus Johnson.
we thought what Marcus Johnson. Okay. Cause I was about to say, like, this is one guy that we thought could be it and never was, but Marcus Johnson, you're saying him. Why do you say Marcus Johnson?
Oh, Marcus Johnson, because he's more of a deep threat. Right. And I think that's what Tennessee is missing right now. And I think you've seen like last week. I mean, you look at it right there, 17.3 yards per catch, 22 long, right? You see he's actually been the deep threat in week 5. And that's the first time you've seen him. And I think that's was something that was missing. You have Julio Jones, who's not a deep threat, AJ Brown, who's been hurt, and Derrick Henry, that's just a battering ram in the backfield. So they needed that different dynamic. So listen, I think he's 1,400. If he's not your captain, Marcus Johnson. I mean, look at that. If I was getting 3 for 52 and maybe a touchdown for $1,400 this week, I'm all in. It's one of those fillers that's going to help you take that next spot tonight.
Yeah, you're tuned into the DFS preview show for the showdown tonight between the Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans. Now, I wanted to go over the Titans first because I think everybody's going to go after Buffalo. So I just wanted to make sure we kind of covered our bases there of kind of guys that can play. But really, what you're going to do is get a lot of Buffalo because no matter what, if this is a close game, that means Tennessee is putting up points. But either way, like it is going to be Buffalo putting up 30 to 40 points because they have done that all season long. The Buffalo Bills, pretty much every game this season, except for game number 1 against the Steelers, where they put up 16 points. 35 against the Dolphins, 43 against Washington, 48 against Houston, and 38 against the Chiefs. And you go, John, those are all bad defenses. Yes. Also, the Titans, very bad defense. So I think either way, if you go, okay, well, you need Tennessee players because what if they put up points to keep it close? Sure. But no matter what, you're going to likely get a 30 to 40 point game from Buffalo. And I think you're going to be able to throw around some of the guys from their lineup as well. Obviously, Josh Allen is number 1 in play. You have to play him. But then here's where we can get a little bit different. Like Emmanuel Sanders, as you can see, the fantasy points per game over Stephon Diggs, like is this one where you maybe get a little bit more of Diggs than you do Sanders in a showdown lineup. Just again, that little contrarian, like, yes, I guess I know Sanders is the guy, but this is, Monday night game that Stephon Diggs is going to take control.
Yeah, I'm looking at the comments. I agree with Stobie a little bit. I was really looking at Emmanuel Sanders as being the captain. And the only reason why is because if you look at the last 3 games, he's actually been the more consistent receiver for the Buffalo Bills. And one thing that's always followed Emmanuel Sanders throughout his career in Pittsburgh, in Denver, and now Buffalo is he's a pristine route runner. And I've talked about this before. Josh Allen, who still is not 100% accurate, is still leaning on a receiver like that he knows is going to be able to go get on the ball. That's not to say Stephon Diggs can't do that, but I think he's falling in love with Emmanuel Sanders across the middle, that nice slot cushion. So I really like Emmanuel tonight. I do. It's Stephon Diggs will get his, but I think Emmanuel Sanders is definitely the play tonight. And I do see, Mike Miles second and say, who's draws Tre'Davious White to get back to Tennessee? Obviously, I think it's going to be Julio Jones, to be honest with you. And I think you're still going to see Tre'Davious switch up depending on how healthy A.J. Brown is. So 100%, Emmanuel Sanders, I like him as a captain. I think we could do a little bit of a nice little lineup with him at your top spot.
Yeah, and the thing about Tennessee's defense is like there is not really anything good in terms of secondary. So I think you can get a little bit deeper here. I think you can look at Dawson Knox. Obviously, he's coming off of like that really big game. So obviously, it's going to be hard to get Dawson Knox without, a bunch of other people wanting him as well. But I think you can go deep. There's some other guy I'm trying to find. Yeah, Cole Beasley right there, 5,400. Yep. Like Cole Beasley, I can see Pepper with a bunch of targets today. And he is getting targeted. And there are a lot of Buffalo Bills players that have put up big-time numbers this year. Yes, Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders are the top 2, but also Dawson Knox has 261 yards on 24 targets with 5 touchdowns. Cole Beasley has 34 targets, which is second most on the team with 215 yards. So I just think this is one where you can just go really deep into Buffalo because there might be enough to spread around for a bunch of guys, to be honest with you.
Yeah, there definitely could be. There definitely could be. And one thing also about Tennessee, zero pass rush. Tennessee has zero pass rush, which means
It's
Josh
not
Allen.
good. They stink, man. Their defense stinks.
It's crazy because Rabel is such a high motored defensive mind, and they just have nothing this year. They really don't. It's a shame. I'll tell you what. A secret pick to me, and I never do this, John. I don't, but I think tonight could be a spot where you buy a kicker. And I'm just saying that because I'm looking at like a low ownership level. I'm looking at a low value, but Tyler Bass to me could be that kind of guy. If it's going to be a close game, I could see maybe him getting like 2 to 3 field goal opportunities along with 2 or 3 extra point opportunities as well. So that could be, 3 out of the last 5 games or out of the first 5 for Tyler Bass. He's been in double digits. So, it sounds crazy, but if you're going to waste your money on a guy hoping to get 5 for 50, why not get a guy that might give you four extra points and 3 field goals and possibly give you 16 to 18?
If you expect it to be a high-scoring game, leave it open as an option to get a kicker in there. Obviously, it would be Buffalo's kicker mostly, because I think they're going to go down the field a bunch. But I mean,
if you want to get creative, you got to start out-picking people, right?
Right, because I mean, if at the end of the day, if you just want to look at the top, like the Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Josh Allen, they are likely all going to be. And you have to fit in Derrick Henry in your lineup as well. Because he's at the point where like it doesn't matter, because the Buffalo Bills are actually one of the better rush defenses in the league and a really good passing defense as well. But they're a really good rush defense. And I think that's the part that's going to stick with them the most and basically carry on throughout the year. They're really good, but still Derrick Henry's just such a big part of this offense that he's still going to get his 25 whatever carries, and he's going to get close to at least 80 to 100 yards no matter what, just because he's fed that much volume. So, and he's that good. So I think Derrick Henry and both Josh Allen have to be in your lineups today. Those are the 2 guys that I just won't be missing on at all. But it's just going to be figuring out kind of where the value is and where some of the, where are we going with captain as well. And I guess kickers in terms of salary relief, because I don't know, other than those couple of kickers, are we going anywhere else? Like, is there any salary relief? I know you mentioned Marcus Johnson on this slate, because it is really hard when, you expect a lot of these guys at the top, like Cole Beasley, even still 5,400. That's not too much salary relief, to be honest.
No, it's not. That's the problem. I mean, that's why the only reason why I mentioned a kicker, because he's 3,400 for Tyler Bass. I mean, you go down, Gabriel Davis, who I loved in coming into this year, has done absolutely nothing. He's got like 1 target the entire season, right? So it's tough to put anything into him. Marcus Johnson, we mentioned because of the fact that he is a deep threat. He looked like he just got involved last week, and he quite possibly could find himself a nice niche in this offense, especially if Brown isn't 100% and Julio's not working. So I think the only salary relief to me would be like a Marcus Johnson for 1,400, or if you want to do a kicker for 34, completely up to you, but you got to get creative.
Yeah, you really do. This is such a tough one too, in terms of a slate, because I just think we're still trying to figure out like if Tennessee's going to show any signs of life. What I do want to at least point out though is Tennessee is giving up some of the most rushing touchdowns this season. The highest is Houston at 11, Kansas City at 9, along with Jacksonville. But right there at the top, in terms of top 5 rushing touchdowns allowed, Tennessee's at 7. That, of course, comes through a lot of chance and just how teams are attacking them in the red zone. But it is kind of leaving it open, I think, for Devin Singletary or Zach Moss. If you want to try and get them in your lineups. The thing is, it's mostly Devin Singletary. He's been great, 5.2 yards per carry. He's got a touchdown, but Zach Moss is the one with 3 touchdowns, and he assumes some of that kind of goal line spot. So I think that's where it gets a little bit tricky for me. But where are you looking at in terms of Buffalo running backs? Because I think you should be able to run a little bit on this Tennessee team, and I think Buffalo will try to.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they haven't been great, but even though they've given up some touchdowns, Tennessee hasn't been really that bad. It's kind of been middle of the road when we talk about.
Yes, it's not like honestly, if you look at yards per game given up, it's not one of the worst in the league. Like they aren't the worst when it comes to passing yards giving up. They aren't the worst when it comes to rushing yards given up. It's just that they have given up a ton of points, and maybe that's just a lack of an offense that's really helping them out. But it's mostly been just teams are finding multiple ways to score on Tennessee at this point.
Yeah, no, they really are. They really are. One thing I'll point out is, we all seen the healthy scratch of Zach Moss in week 1. and all of a sudden they've been featuring him more and more and more. Last week, even though he had less attempts, the one thing I thought was intriguing was he had 4 targets. He actually had 3 catches for 55 yards, something that's not in his repertoire, something that we're not expecting from him. Devin Singletary more is that kind of guy. So seeing that as last week, I do still think this is Moss's show, even though Singletary is the starter in name only, in my opinion. It's still Zach Moss. And in a game like this, John, like we talked about, whether it be close or a blowout, there's going to be some red zone opportunities. And if they're going to get the red zone opportunities, one of these backs is going to score. Zach Moss has been consistent. He's been double digits every game he's played. So that's one thing I will tell you. Has he dropped off a little bit? Yes, but he's still been double digits. So for me, consistency always rolls out in the end.
Yeah, we do have our guy Theo pointing out, and I'll just put it up on the screen there. Pruitt, he has a touchdown. He is starting to get involved in some of the red zone work. But again, I think where I'm trying to find most of it is just, I think the Bills running backs might be the key to find it out because they could still have a big game. Like James Robinson had a huge day against Tennessee last week. So like, I think you can, and honestly, like it might be Zach Moss, but I think that's what you kind of have to figure out, or where you can maybe change some things here if you want to go Zach Moss or Devin Singletary. But I think that's where you go. Now, Zach Moss, he's been the consistent one. He's the 7K. He obviously the 14.7 fantasy points per game. Singletary, more the bigger play guy. I think he's a faster guy than Zach Moss. It's just that, it doesn't happen all the time, and he hasn't been scoring a lot. The thing that sucks is, too, it's not like I could point out and say, like, hey, here's the pass catching back from, Buffalo that I think we can use here, going to be on the field more. They don't really have a pass catching back. It's all wide receivers and Dawson Knox all the time. So you're trying to decipher, like, is it going to be Moss or Singletary basically getting the goal line carries? These guys are going to score. One of them are going to score tonight, but really the answer has always come down to it's been Zach Moss that has scored and not Devin Singletary. So, I think Zach Moss is the way to go in the backfield as well. You're tuned into the Showdown as we are getting you ready for the DFS slate tonight between the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans that you can all check out too. Showdown articles. We even have our first look up, and you can build your lineups with the optimizer and the projection model as well over at windailysports.com. 1 week free trial, Win Daily Sports. Use the promo code LIVEWEEK, the promo code to get a 1 week free trial, just to check out all of the things that we have to offer for you. And that 1 week also going to extend to Sunday, so you get it for the Sunday NFL DFS slate as well. Also, you can sign up at the Sharp app. Go to sharp.link and all the ways to download the Sharp app, whether that is the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Do you all like Henry tonight? Yeah, I think always you have to like Derrick Henry. I like they're going up against a really, there sort of is there a be careful on Henry tonight? I guess
I think so.
Defense.
Okay. I do. I think so. This is a dominant defensive line. Okay. And what I mean by be careful is, listen, Derrick Henry's always going to get his, but I would expect a lower than usual yards, a yardage total tonight. And we all know Derrick Henry is touchdown dependent. So if you get a game from Derrick Henry, like if you look at week 1 against Arizona, and I'm not saying, obviously it was only week 1, but that's the kind of Derrick Henry game you could get. If he does not score a touchdown, you're going to get one of those games. And I'm not saying it's going to be tonight, but what I'm saying is just lower the expectations a little bit. So if, high ownership is going to be huge on Derrick Henry, but you may want to trip up the system and just be careful if you're putting him as your captain. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Look, the biggest games that he's had, of course, just that one Arizona game was the bad one, but it's Seattle, Indianapolis, the Jets, and Jacksonville. Buffalo, better rush defense than all of those teams.
And what does Arizona
that's
have?
Where you can be careful.
Arizona has a good defensive line.
Yeah,
just
they
like
do.
Buffalo does, right?
They do.
Just be careful. And the other thing I will say about that is Buffalo has some very, very underrated linebackers. Tremaine Edwards is playing out of his mind.
Yes, he is.
Right now. So just be very weary of that when you're set your lines tonight. It's almost set. Yeah.
It's going to be really, I guess, difficult for me to to take him out. The only reason I say that because I think it's a close game, and that's kind of what we're going under the assumption of, that this is going to be a little bit closer than expected. It's a 6-point spread right now, but that's 6 points favored for Buffalo on the road against Tennessee, which is a really big spread for a road team against a Tennessee team that, you know, came in with some expectations to win their division and actually make some noise in the playoffs. But with the way Tennessee's playing, it's been really bad. But I think it's closer. So they're going to score, and Derrick Henry's the guy that does it. You know, like he is the guy that is likely going to get, you know, it's not even just, you know, targets and whatever. When they're in the red zone, it's all Derrick Henry. They are trying to score through Derrick Henry because their power running game is the best attribute of this team. So I just don't think they're going to stay out of that even in a game like this. Now, the problem is just like, yes, because he could have the same thing with Arizona. And I could likely see that situation happening again, where he's averaging about 3.5 to 3.7 yards per carry. He has, you know, maybe 60 to 80 yards, something like that, and doesn't have the 100-yard game. I'm just afraid that still kind of what's going to happen there is a touchdown or two, just because he continues to get a lot of the goal line work. It's really hard for me to keep Henry. Obviously, you keep him in season long, all of that. And I know why Showdown, you know, you would, if you are trying to get contrarian, use different ways to, you know, and maybe Derrick Henry, because of the prices being so high and he's going to have such a high ownership, that you keep him out. But I find it hard in any of these lineup building scenarios that I just don't see it, because, you know, AJ Brown, if he does play, still, I don't know what he's going to be, if he's going to be 100%. Julio Jones is coming back from injury, but we all know Julio Jones, for some reason, isn't a red zone target ever, and I don't get it, but isn't really a red zone target. I mean, to me, it's Derrick Henry, or, you know, maybe some of these ancillary guys that just aren't worth putting in your lineups. So it is difficult. But I agree with you. I would be weird if you're thinking like 100 to 150-yard game and like 2 or 3 scores like he has been getting all season. That's not going to happen in this game. I don't think so.
And again, I'm not saying to take them out of your lineup. Obviously, what I'm saying is
be cautious.
You're right. You're
I 100% agree.
Right. You're talking a big difference here, right? So, I mean, you know, do you put him as your captain? You're talking about a $5,000 to $7,000 swing. That's huge.
I would not put him in captain. Yes.
Right.
No. That okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
100%. No way I'm putting him in captain tonight.
I would just be very weary to put him as your captain. Exactly. Yeah. That's why I like the Sanders call. I do. I like the Emmanuel Sanders call.
Right. If you're going with captain, I think it's got to be someone from the Buffalo Bills receiving group. I even think Stephon Diggs is in play, even though he has been having big games, because I could see you could throw on Tennessee, and I could see it happen where Stephon Diggs is the guy instead of Emmanuel Sanders. But that's where, when I'm in the captain spot, that's who I'm going to be interchanging. Pass catchers from the Buffalo Bills. That's really it. Like, they're going to have the big day. You have to get Josh Allen into your lineup. I think it's a good idea to get pass catching targets from the Buffalo Bills and your captain. And then you can kind of work your way around that. You can get Derrick Henry in. You can get maybe a Zach Moss, something like that, and try and find some value as well, which kicker's not a bad one if we are expecting points tonight, especially from Buffalo's side.
Especially you have limited options. And I think that sometimes when you have limited options, you have to look at this way, right? You have limited options, and one of those options, again, $3,000 could be a kicker. I got to shout out my boy, the Princess Jigsaw Rules. My man, always follow me. I got to say, he's hit me up all the time.
Love it.
One guy, real fast, I will touch on is, and it all depends. Jerry McNichols. Now, again, he's got an ankle issue. He's listed as questionable still, but he's that kind of guy with this kind of game that they may want to utilize him more out in wheel routes and out in that passing game, because he's more of that pass catching type back. He showed the ability to do that. If you look at that game against the Jets, 12 targets, right? You see that, but you see he gets a couple of targets sprinkled in each day. But if this is a weird kind of game, and we've seen this before where McNichols gets these opportunities. So again, salary relief, you got to start to get creative, right? Everybody's going to have the same guys. So those are kind of guys that you may want to look at for tonight.
I love it. And of course, for more of that, and we did, by the way, have Ivan Bass in the captain spot. Really contrarian.
Ooh.
I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on that one, but yes, I think it is sort of
all I know is when Tyler Bass tonight, when he puts up about 20 points for everybody, I want everybody hitting up Jigsaw on Twitter 100% to let me know what's up. 100%. Let's see. We got I'll tell you. Oh,
There we go.
there you go. It, froze up a little bit there, buddy.
Froze
You're
up a
all
little
right.
bit. This is what happens. It crashes the screen. Crashes the stream when we start talking about kickers in the captain spot. Yes,
See, that's what happened. It
happened.
hurt us. It's that, whoa,
But
slow down.
yeah, limited options for today, and I think the kicker is proving that. Not limited options, though, at Win Daily Sports. Plenty of options, plenty of tools to use, plenty of articles to check out over Win Daily Sports. Again, sign up for a 1-week free trial using the promo code LiveWeek, and if you want the link is in the description below. That is it for us. Thank you to Tony Jigsaw Cotillo. You can follow him at tcotillo23. Follow me at jjansen34. We'll be back for tomorrow as we go over some things for week 7. But that is it for us tonight here at WinDailySports.